thoughts and opinions on this proposed building code ordinance. And to start off, I'm going to ask Mel Cosgrove with the International Code Council to give his comments before we can take comments from y'all. Mel, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Mel Cosgrove. I'm with the International Code Council. We are a not-for-profit organization, and we develop model codes for our members. Our members are governmental units such as the City of Hamilton, city, counties, and states. We have over 50,000 members. And we have a process that we develop codes as an ANSI accredited code development process. It's very, very precise process where we publish, every 3 years we publish a new addition to the code. We publish a date where people can submit proposals for code changes. Then we actually publish all the proposals and we submit them to all our members. For example, like the City of Hamilton is a member, and each city has, based on its population, has representatives. Like, for example, Hamilton is authorized to send 4 representatives to the code hearings. They're debated. We have a panel of industry experts that make recommendations on whether this is a good proposal or a bad proposal. We publish the recommendations back to our members. Then we have what we call final action hearings, where only the members would get to vote. Now, everything in our process, anyone can submit a proposal for a code change. Anyone can go to the mic and testify. We have industry on the committee that listens to the proposals and makes recommendations. But when it comes to the final vote, we're very passionate about this. Only the representatives from the cities get to make the final vote because they have no monetary interest in the outcome. They're not trying to sell more fire extinguishers, they're not trying to sell systems, or they're not trying to sell concrete or steel. Their only interest is the citizens that they're trying to protect. So that's kind of the process. And so we publish the code books every 3 years. This is the 2006 edition that your city is interested in adopting. Now, you may wonder, why adopt codes? Why are codes important? Well, for one thing, if you talk to the insurance industry, they've got worlds and worlds of show you that in areas that have no codes, when a storm comes through, the actual damage is much greater than in areas that have structures built to codes. So that's one thing. Another thing is that codes make everybody work on a level playing field. In other words, if I'm a building contractor and I'm bidding a job, and I want to bid this job, and I've got one guy that's a legitimate building contractor and he's trying to build to code and he gives a price, and then another guy, if we have no codes, what if he says, well, I can underbid his price because I won't put any rebar in the foundation, or I'll use 14 gauge wire instead of 12 gauge wire because there's nobody to catch me. I'm underbidding. So minimum standards put construction so that it protects the home buyer, so that everybody knows that the house is being built to a minimum standard. It also, I just lost my train of thought because I was getting ahead on something else. I'm trying to think of the reason. Training, it makes it easier when we're all using the same codes to train our inspectors. It also adds more value to your home. If you go to sell your home, I know I would not buy a house if it was not inspected because I don't have x-ray vision. I can't see what's behind the sheetrock. I don't know whether the studs are on 48-inch centers or 16-inch centers or 24-inch centers, where a code would know if my house would have more value when I say this house was built to a certain standard in the 2006 residential code and it was inspected, so you know you've got a certain amount of value and safety. Also, codes, and I guess the number one most important thing is you have a more durable, safer home, because you as the home buyer, you know what you're paying for. you know when you contract out with somebody to build a home for you, that it's going to be to a certain level of safety, and the construction is going to be to a certain level. It's probably, codes are probably the third most important safety feature, a function of a city. Right behind police and fire is the enforcement of codes, as far as when it comes right down to safety. And whether a building may, you can talk to your fire service. You know, a building that's not built to codes, you don't know if you're going to have premature collapse when the building catches on fire. There's a certain amount of predictability. A certain amount of predictability to high winds and snow loads and earthquake protection. And people say, well, I don't want a code that, I don't want to have to build a code here in Hamilton that's going to be to the same earthquake provisions as Memphis, or to the same wind load as Mobile, or to the same snow loading as Ohio. Well, we do that with maps, with zoning maps. There'll be a map of the United States in the code book, and it'll say if you're in this particular area, you're in, like Hamilton, you would not have to worry about seismic because it's laid out on the map. You wouldn't worry about the high wind loads that you're going to have in Mobile, because it'll say if you're in wind zone so-and-so, you have to do this. Well, Hamilton, you'd see on the map, and you wouldn't have to worry about that. Same thing with snow loading. So people will say, well, you know, I can't have one code because I don't want to have to put up with this or that. Well, it's all done with what we call maps that address seismic and snow loading and zoning and so forth. I'm trying to think, is there anything else I talked to y'all about that you feel like I need to... I guess the biggest thing is the safety.
Would it significantly add to the cost, or would it be relatively the same?
Well,
by doing it by the code.
If it's good, I would say the code is, if you do it by code, it washes out, because do you want to build it? Sure. If I don't have a code and I can bid on building your house and put my 2x4 studs on 48-inch centers, sure, I could do that cheaper. But it's going to be unsafe, and I don't want my children to be in there. Or I can put in I can have a receptacle right next to the sink and not a ground fault receptacle. I can do that cheaper. But no, as far as if you build it to an acceptable level, and there's another thing, we have what we call, for the home builders, in Alabama we have a home builder licensure board. And the law that establishes the Home Builders Licensure Board says that if you're a home builder, you must build to the standard of the community that you're building in. Well, if there's no building code, what's the standard? What's the standard in Hamilton right now if there's no code? And so you don't have the protection from the Home Builders Licensure Board, because there's no set standard for them to hold you to. Where if you have once you adopt a building code, then if you hire somebody to build a house for you, then he has to build to that standard. And if your builder goes bankrupt or he doesn't build to that standard, now you can go to the Home Builders Licensure Board, and they have this pool of money that's setting aside that they will come in and they will investigate. They'll have an investigator, and they'll come in, and if the builder won't fix it, then they can hire somebody else, but they'll cover it. You're not covered now. There's also a chance, if we had a natural disaster in our community, FEMA comes in with a lot of money and will help to rebuild after a natural disaster. But if you have no code, then your amount of money that you're going to be eligible for from FEMA could be quite different than if you have a code. It's very complicated, the formula they use, and I'm trying to think of an easy way to explain it, but they would only give you the amount of money that would bring you back to the standard you had. But then they won't give you any money unless it's to a current code. And so you've got to pay the difference in that gap. Where if you had an adopted code and we had a natural disaster and the federal government came in to help us, you're gonna actually get a lot more money and a lot more help from FEMA. So there's a lot of reasons to have a code that is created from a national consensus. And this is not just Southern. This is This code, I wish I'd have brought the list. I had it on PowerPoint. It shows all the cities in Alabama. The international building code is basically the only code out there in the United States. There's Chicago, New York had its own code. They recently dropped it, you know, and have gone with our codes. Chicago is probably the only major city that still got the Chicago building code, a homegrown code. But they're in the process of adopting our code. Everybody's seeing now it's better to have a nationally recognized code. There was one small town in Texas that had their own. They've since gone to our codes. So pretty much we're the only code organization out there.
One other question that we've had individuals asked if they could add on to their house or remodel the house.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. If let's just say you wanted to rebuild your kitchen, then what you did in your kitchen would have to be to code, to the current code that's adopted. But you don't have to go back, and if your plumbing wasn't up to code in the bathroom, if you're not doing any work in the bathroom, you don't have to remodel the whole house. You don't have to go back to your bathroom. Only the work the physical work that you're doing, only the physical area that you're working on would have to be done to the current code. You would have to upgrade any of the existing home.
The question, like building sheds and stuff and decks.
Yeah, the code very clearly points out, it gives you what is permitted and what's not permitted, like sidewalks and driveways are not permitted, decks, painting, carpets, flooring. It gives you a list of the things that you can do without a permit and so forth. Even if you go with a code and a home builder, you come in and say, well, I want to do my own electrical work. You can do that. All it says is you have to take out a permit and you can do your work, but then it would still be inspected by the city's electrical inspector to make sure your work was done to code. But you can still do your own work as long as you're not doing it for somebody else. I can't come up and say, I'll come and rewire your house for you, you know, for a certain amount of money. But if I'm doing my own house and I live there, I can do it myself, my own plumbing, my own electrical, my own everything. You just simply, it has to be done to code.
Is that on you?
That's all, unless y'all have a question.
Those who want to comment, I'd like you to raise your hand and I'll recognize you. Watson?
Yes. Want me to number one? You may start now?
Yeah.
Well,
Answer these questions.
okay. All of our lives, you know, we've heard about the codes and how great California was. Okay, California's totally falling apart with codes. It's totally broke. Not only the property owners are broke, the government's broke. Jefferson County was, you know, in Alabama was probably the first to have these codes. They're totally broke. Last week they even considered dropping the things. Okay, and then I look at Hamilton, 150 years this town has been in existence somewhat. Okay, we're not the smartest generation probably that ever lived. There may be some smarter than us coming up. And I mean, why after 150 years is it this urgent thing that we do this? In the 70s, I think we've, under Mayor E.T. Sims, we probably had the greatest housing boom that ever been, and we got by that. And you don't hear daily the fire trucks running out of a house that's exploded with bad wiring, or somebody drowned it in their living room for their plumbing. And right now, I think Hamilton has got a lot more problems to worry about than this. I know the residents do. I mean, we're looking at 32-hour work weeks. Unemployment's highest it's ever been. Utility rates is up, not only the local, but you know, like your power. Everything's costing more than that Social Security check will cover. And I just don't think at this time that Hamilton can afford to dive off into this thing. I think there's more pressing problems than this.
Watson?
Yes.
City of Hamilton has had a building code since 1963.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason never was enforced. So what we're trying to do is upgrade this old code. It was they went by the Southern Building Code. So what we want to do is upgrade this existing building code ordinance to reflect the international code and to begin to enforce it.
Well,
It's not like we never had a.
that's what I'm saying. Hamilton has been a peaceful place to live. I mean, we hadn't had a abundance of problems in no way in our building. On the street, I've heard this week, well, what if somebody built a shack beside your house? Well, I should have bought that land. Or that's what privacy fences are for. Or Hamilton could look at building some, encouraging somebody to have some subdivisions with restrictions. I don't think we need to just change our lives just for something that we think could do good, because I've been active in this town for 40 years, and I don't see nothing really. I love it here. You got a lot of people says, Hamilton's not growing and all this. I like Hamilton. And if there's a lot of people that don't like it, or few, I rent U-Hauls. They can move on out to Chicago.
We feel like that it's in the best interest of citizens of Hamilton to have their buildings built to code.
Okay.
And Mal just said it didn't add significantly to the cost. And if you watched houses being wired like I have over the years, I would sleep in some houses. The wiring is that bad. And I don't know about the plumbing, but if you're going to hook gas to your heater, then you want to make sure your gas is plumbed in right where it won't be a leak. All we're doing is trying to make sure the citizens of Hamilton get what they pay for. And just like he said, and I've seen builders not install the right number of studs. I've seen all this over the years. And what we want to do is just make sure that when people build something, they get their money's worth and it's done correctly.
Well, why don't we look at it on new residential and commercial? Say if it's $100,000, go with this. But you Social Security residents out there can just not afford any more projects, I'm telling you.
If they're not building anything, it's not going to affect them.
Well, they're going to have a little repair. They're going to have to have a water heater repaired, maybe some plumbing done.
Do they have to have a permit to change the water heater?
Keep talking about that.
Did you work in California? I mean, people that, building a new house, fine. I mean, we know it'd probably be extra $5,000 on any average house to go under the codes, because you have to bring the right people in to do it. That'd be fine. Yeah, it'd cost $5,000. It would get that type late in the year. But what I would like to see us do is at least start off at $100,000. If not, drop it down to a $10,000 repair. Where if I own Shadow Lake Apartments and all that complex over there and wanted to build 100 more in Hamilton, I'd want this law to come in tonight, not tomorrow. I'd want it tonight. But they're not the only ones that's trying to get by in Hamilton. And that's the reason we need to just give these people a little chance to ease their lives on out in some of these old houses. And a better law than this would be enforce your law of taking down buildings that needs to come down. I mean, there's some houses that's been, people haven't lived in years. We don't enforce that law. That's the cleanup that I think everybody would love better than this.
Well, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
We do need to take care of the abandoned house.
Yeah.
It would not require a permit.
It would?
Would not.
As I read,
Has to be
have y'all
closed.
studied this? Y'all need to know what it's gonna bring before? I mean, really, do you know how it's gonna affect our people?
No, that's what we're here
What
for
it's
tonight.
gonna
If we was voting on this tonight, I would vote on it.
cost? Okay, y'all not voting.
We might not ever vote on
Okay,
it.
y'all-
We need your opinion.
We
What you
met
think.
with him before we came in here,
Because my biggest concern is like you're saying, our people should have the freedom to decide if they want something built the way they want it built. If I want 16
That's
center,
the
if I want
question,
24.
right there. Now, I was told that the state and the legislature right now is thinking about making everybody have a building code. Now, would you rather have one of your own, or would you have somebody tell you what you're gonna have to do?
Well, when we get to that point, we gotta go back
Yes, that's what I'm making, but frankly, it's like anybody else.
Hang on don't need to be taking, putting something on myself until I have to, if we ain't gotta do it right now. My thing is, if you got your people right now that can't afford, in my area, in the renter business, you got people just struggling from month to month. These little people that's got homes, they can't afford to pay $30 or $40 for a permit or something every time they fix something on the house.
If they fix it, it's not under the code, right?
Right.
If they add on or something like that, that
Anything you
is.
change, if you change the plug, if you change the switch, if you read that book and see what's in it.
How much
Anything you
is
do
the permit?
that's for a permit, you gotta go to that code.
How much does a permit cost?
We don't know.
That's what the thing on says, it's one that.
I got two more comments, and then I'm gonna listen to the rest of the show. Not only the homeowners, especially the Social Security type people, and I mean, if you're working 32 hours a week, you're on a real fixed income too. But these little companies, they're in a person in Hamilton that didn't, in the carpenter business, that didn't do a startup company, either working with their parent or they came out of a trailer plant. They had to start slow and easy. If this law was adopted and enforced 100%, you wouldn't have no little startup companies. They'd be gone instantly. And we got a lot of people works out of Hamilton that does that. And it's just not fair to them to do that. I know we say Winfield done it, you ain't done it, but so be it. That interstate separates me from Winfield. Don't worry about what they do. Just worry about the people who elected y'all. And during the campaign, there wasn't a person up there that talked about putting on codes, restrictions, or anything. I was real close to all of you except one. And I know we didn't talk about that. And I just don't think we're to dive into this time. We're to just think about this.
Well, no, we didn't do it because Winfield and Ewing did.
Well, I
But
heard
every
that.
time a government agency comes to Hamilton and we talk to them, the first two questions they ask, do you have a building code? We say no. Do you have a zoning ordinance? No. That is affecting our ability to get grants to do things that people in Hamilton want. And if they don't want to give us grant money, there's not anything we can do at this particular time.
Well, Mayor, I served 8 years up on that bench and 4 years with the chamber, part-time president, and I never heard that. I mean, this has got to be some brand new tactic they're pulling.
Well, if
I
they
never
did-
heard that the building codes or something cost us to do that.
Well,
I heard the wet dry thing before, but I passed that right along and forgot about it.
Well, we probably could forget about it, but we can't get the money to do the projects that we've been asked to do.
They've changed the rules on it.
Yeah, and so, when the first two questions out of their mouth is what I just said. And then they say, well, okay.
Well, this group of people right here needs to contact NACOG and say, listen, NACOG, this first we heard about this and we don't like it.
Well, we pass that along to them.
That's what we need to do.
Anybody else want to speak? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
My question is going to cost the city to adopt this code, and what is the projected cost of it per year?
We ain't got that deep into it.
Well, you need to, I need to know that.
Well, what we want to do is hear from you.
Well, this is tough economic times and everything is down. Your sales tax revenue is in the basement. And you're talking about adding something else to your, what are you going to cut loose to adopt this and put somebody in place? And also, I'd like that fellow to answer your question when you asked him what this was going to cost extra, because he just danced around that.
But every town's charge is different. That's
Yeah, but what are your dues to him, to his organization, per year to work his code?
$100
Per year.
per year. Anybody else want to speak? Yes, sir.
My question is when you put this in, your people that you're gonna have to hire, you're gonna have to pay them, right?
We're gonna hire
Go on
probably
and spend.
one person, and that may be on a per job basis, where it's not a full-time job. We're looking at
You're
that.
gonna have output that people cannot afford. We're already at death now. And I don't think this is a very good idea.
Well, if you're building a house, would you like to know it's built right?
Well, I hope I've got enough sense to look at it and know this bill right.
Yeah, being built right now.
I got something to say, if you don't mind.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
When I come to Hamilton, I bought a business, and I thought it was built to code, but it burned down, and it was $57,000 worth of damage. And I was out of business, and I had a payroll of 15 people, and we were out of work for 6 months. And believe me when I tell you, that building was not built to code. Nothing about it was built to code. Every one of my customers come in and told me I did this, I did that. I put the roof on, I did the electric. My wife here is sitting right here and she can tell you. And half the customers that are here right now, well, people here, most of them were my customers. Some of them even worked for me at the time. So, I have some experience.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
If you vote for this, are you willing to stamp your name if Hamilton goes into a state of economic depression in the city of Hamilton? Are you willing to put your name up and say, it was my fault?
Yeah.
For the people voting?
Yeah, I will.
What's gonna be the big difference between the code as it exists now and has never been enforced and the one that's proposed? Are there major differences? Would we be better off just to start enforcing the code we already have in place?
Maybe you can answer that. This was the Southern Building Code,
What, 60?
the Southern Building Code, and we want to change it to the international. What would be the advantage or additional cost involved?
As technology, I'm not familiar with the 63, that's, no. But as technology changes, for example, the code used to have to address the flame spread of carpet, but that's no longer even talked about in the code because the federal government regulates the manufacture of carpet, and all carpet now, if it's made in the United States, have to meet the standards, so the code doesn't have to address it. But back then, you had to address things like that because some carpet would burn so rapidly and put off toxic smokes, and people were dying from the smoke. So as technology changed, the code had to change. So there's a lot of things like that with new building materials. Back then, the code did require smoke detectors in your house and things like that. So those are the kind of things that you see as technology changes. The code has to change with the technology.
Most all homeowners' insurance policies are going to provide for the use of smoke detectors and so forth.
I guess that's just like I had a lady tell me in this room that she had a house built, not that old, and she had some remodeling done on it. And when they went to tear the door out to add the addition on, the remodeling contractor found there was no header, literally no header above the door. And but she didn't know that. She didn't know that when she had her house built, you know. And that's just unbelievable that they would do new construction like that and leave the header out over the door. And those are the kind of things that your inspector would spot using the code. But you're the citizens. It's your decision what you want to do. I mean, we're a not-for-profit. We're here if you want us.
Do the inspectors go through a training process?
Ma'am?
Do the inspectors go
Yes,
through
ma'am.
a training
We
process?
do have a certification program where they're certified to be an inspector.
And the $100 a year covers that training?
No, it doesn't. It's $100 a year to be a member of the ICC and get all our publications and so forth. And then, but if your inspector wanted to be training, we do have some free training courses. And but if he wanted to be certified, he would pay to take the certification test. I think it's somewhere around $100 or something like that. Like I said, we're a not-for-profit organization.
And I'm just asking, what's a ballpark figure of the cost of a home inspection, a new structure?
That would all be on the permit fee that your council would have to establish. So I have no, I can't answer that.
But I mean, this inspector
He's paid for by the city.
Okay,
And
so the city pays the inspector.
He's an employee of the
Okay.
city. and then you take out a permit, and your permit fees cover their cost for the inspector. And the gentleman was talking about me dancing around the cost a while ago. How can I possibly answer that when how can I compare? I have no idea how much money someone is undercharging because he's doing inferior work. So how can I possibly give you a price on what it costs to build a code and not to code? I mean, nobody can give that figure because I don't know what all they're cutting corners on. But if everybody's building to code, if everybody were a reputable builder, there would be no cost other than the permit fee.
Yes, sir.
If you would, hold that book up just a minute. The code book. Now, there's a lot of pages in there, and it's going to say a lot of things. First of all, when a man goes to build a house, he's going to find a contractor. Well, he's got to be certified. And then you got to find somebody that's certified to be an electrician. You got to find somebody that's certified to be a plumber. Then, each stage of this, you go along, you go to the city, you say, well, I need a permit to build my house. That's costing you money. All right? The city's not going to go out and inspect your property and do a soil sample to find out if the ground will perk. The city's not going to come out and inspect that wiring. And each stage it goes through is going to cost that person that's building that house more money. It goes from permit to the certified plumber. Because he's certified, you're going to pay more for him. Some people can't afford that. Some can. Some can, you can have a certified electrician, but you're going to pay more for that certified electrician than you can your buddy over here. I understand that. Now, building code is good, but when you go to a bank and borrow the money to build this house, that bank is going to get your plans, they're going to look at it, and they're going to tell you where they're going to loan the money or not. They give you so much money in each stage of that. It's up to the bank to inspect that house. The other one's loaning money, and that's the one that's going to get the house back if you don't pay the payment. I think if Hampton's got a building code now, we don't need a new one if it's doing the job. That book right there, nobody in here knows what it says from page to page until it's read thoroughly and decided on. There's no way y'all can make a decision on it and not be thorough about it. I'm not for it, and that's just my opinion.
Okay, anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
It's my understanding that that book's gonna cost about $90. How many copies does the city have, and are y'all loaning them out for individuals to read?
No, we have one copy. My knowledge, right? One copy, and we're gonna keep it novel. They can come read it anytime they want to.
I do have one more thing. If make no difference where the book is. I'm sort of like him, losing a little bit of a chain of thought here, but y'all come back later and he tells you can revise this book for the city ordinance, and it's up to y'all. Maybe we don't like what y'all do. And I don't, and he said something about a pool of money. Where's this pool of money come from?
That's the home builders license.
Home builders?
The licensure board. The board that licenses home builders.
And it's put into a pool.
They've got some type of pool that if you file a complaint with the home builders licensure board, they'll send an inspector out, and I don't work for them, so I've just talked to them, and if they feel like that your builder did not build to the standard established by the community, then the licensure board can tell the home builder either you fix it or we'll pull your license, or they can hire somebody out of it and pay for it for this money that's established by the home builder.
Community is actually standard to whatever the city is now. This board here, I like them all. I ain't got anything to do with it. But maybe the next board I don't like none of it. Maybe they make a decision on my house. It's costing me money. Now, there is a difference here, and we all need to understand this. If you're building a house, you do need a code, and you do need a standard. But it looks to me like you go to the bank ought to have that code and standard because they're standing good part, not the city.
I've been in the banking business before, and bankers are trained to be bankers and to know what the banking laws are. They're not really trained to be inspectors. They will give you a certain percent of that money when the house is complete. You can go out and make suggestions, or either if they're not doing it right, you can say, well, we're not gonna loan money on this because it's not according to the way we feel.
Does the banker though, when they loan this money, they give it to you, say like, you do the foundation, you get $5,000. They get the framework up, they give you another $10,000. They do it in that stage, do they not? When they do it in those stages, do they not come out and look at this foundation, oh yeah, here's your money? They not come out and look at the framework and say, here's your money. We're willing to pay for this.
Well, you're not out there the whole time when it's being built. Most of the time when the foundation's being dug and poured, you know, you're not there. Three times usually you make.
Now this is where I sort of different. You get a permit from the city and you pay for that. Alright, the bank can't go out there and look at it, so you get an inspector. The inspector ain't gonna go out there and look at every bit of that until it gets to a certain stage, and he's gonna come out and look at it. He's not gonna come out and check the foundation. He's not gonna come look at the framework until it's up to a certain stage. Then when he comes out, if he wants to deal you or the builder a hard time, he can wipe you out.
Larry, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, the inspections, most of them, of course, I've built through inspections all my life. USDA, farmer's home. The first inspection is the foundation. It's done.
Who inspects?
USDA, man.
Where's he out of? I mean, where's he go?
Last one.
Does he come around here?
He's from Vernon.
He's from Vernon?
Philip Cross, yeah. He's from Vernon. Yeah. But he inspects the foundation. Make sure the rebar is in there.
Good for the report.
Yeah.
Now, Larry, I've
Second
been here all my
inspection.
life, and I know you do a good job building, but, you know, I've been here and I've never seen one of them.
Well, if you borrow money through USDA, you'll see one.
Well, yeah, but everybody don't do that.
All right. The second inspection is like every other one. All of these are the same. The second one is a frame. It's rough thin. It's black thin, we call it. Your wiring is rough thin. Your plumbing is rough thin. All your framing is done. You're ready to insulate and put sheetrock through. We covered all of it, but that's the main inspection right there. Then your final inspection, of course, you check all the circuits, all the wiring is correct, all the plumbing's right, everything's hooked up right.
So how many trips this man makes?
3 times.
3 times.
3 times.
So you can't get away with anything here
Not much. Not much. Not much. What can you cover up? What can you cover up?
Oh, yeah, I've done enough building to know I can sneak around.
Larry's been in business, he built more out than I have, but I've done a lot of work for the government and, up in the national park now. When you start, before you pour that concrete, that man comes out and looks at it, he makes sure everything is up to par. Then you pour your concrete. And before you cover anything up, you know, like drywall, he makes sure that wire is done right, he inspects the wiring. And he inspects the plumbing before you cover anything up. Now that's my experience up in
And the heating unit system is.
Well, I don't know about it. I don't know about the hood housing, but I do know about the government work up there. They inspect it before anything is covered up. I know that to be true, but I've had a lot of experience in that.
It's already.
I think we need to hear from them. We need to hear from them up there what they're doing.
Yeah, rule development. It's the USDA to the HUD.
I don't know about HUD, because I've never done HUD.
Mr. Jones, got some.
Yes,
Yeah, if I tear out my kitchen and get a permit to put it back, if your inspector comes out and says, no, I can't inspect, that wire is no good, you gotta redo it. What about the rest of my house? Do I have to tear all that wire up?
No, just the parts you remodeled. Only the parts that you're
You mean the
remodeling.
inspector's only gonna do one room and the rest of the wire is bad? What good is that to me?
Well, you can't see it. You got the drywall on, you can't see it. You can see the wiring, exposed when you're remodeling the kitchen.
Right, and that's all he's gonna look at.
Yeah, that's the only room he's gonna look at, that's the only room you're remodeling, is the
They
kitchen.
don't need them then. For one wall plug and two wall plugs to look at it?
Well, you look at the rest of it, it's being remodeled. Yeah,
Does the state already have minimum requirements? There's something
Yes.
that's passed through the legislature.
Yes.
now I can't answer that.
It's
Can you
according
answer
to,
that?
we have the Alabama Building Commission, but by law, they only can look at certain, they look at movie theaters, they look at schools, educational facilities, they look at any building built with state money. Seems like I'm missing one, but it's just very specific. They don't look at everything in the state, it's just very specific occupancies. Then you've got, the health department has some inspectors that look just at hospitals, healthcare facilities. And, but that's as far as the building code goes, that's pretty much, as far as the statewide building goes. There was legislation actually proposed this legislative session establishing a minimum statewide building code, but it failed. And they're talking about reintroducing it next year. And y'all, the reason it failed, the major reason it failed, and I agree, I would have voted against it. The legislation this year that was proposed, they were wanting to have what they call a mini max code in Alabama, which I'll explain what that is, but you really wouldn't want that in Hamilton. A mini max code would be the state would establish the minimum and the maximum. So, so you couldn't take away nor add to the code. And so that's
Is there any way that you can separate new construction from an addition? If you wanted to put an addition onto an existing house, is there any way that you can have two separate codes? Or is it all got to fall under the same code?
well, we have a building code and a residential code. We've got 14 different codes, everything from swimming pool to plumbing to sewage to, but the main ones is the main three codes is the fire code, the building code, and the residential code. And the building code is commercial. It's all commercial work. The residential code is strictly for 1 and 2 family dwellings. And they tried to put all the provisions in one book. Everything from plumbing to gas to electrical, the framing to everything. So a builder can take one code book out on the job site and have everything he needs in the residential code, because that's where the majority of construction is in 1 and 2 family dwellings. And where the commercial work, you've got a plumbing code, electrical code, a mechanical code, that's all commercial type stuff. But the residential is all in one code book.
That one book you got covers the whole United States.
Yes, it covers the whole
And that's
United
the reason
States.
why it's so thick.
Right.
Everybody wants to know that.
Are you gonna add about, if you do it the way probably everybody or the way it should be done or whatever, you probably gonna add $750 to $1,000 cost per new house, sort of what size it is. On
Just from an outsider looking in, and it's whatever y'all want. I don't take offense to anything y'all said tonight. It's your community, but just from an outsider, it sounded like most of the opposition was coming from people that are wanting to do their own work and on their own house. But think about all the people that, let's just say I just moved to Hamilton and I wanted to contract somebody to build a house for me without a code, and I've got 3 or 4 people come give me bids. I have no idea who's bidding on what. I have no idea if they're bidding, what kind of house I'm going to end up with, because the architect is not going to specify. He's going to expect certain things to be done to code, and it protects.
That's what a contractor.
Now, an
Take a reliable
individual
contractor, like we've got here,
But that's what I say, a contractor's not, you've got some unscrupulous contractors that he may bid and say, I'm gonna leave the rebar out of the foundation.
Yes, sir, you're making our point altogether. If you can't trust your contractor, don't hire him.
Well, we do have some unscrupulous handymen in Hamilton, we all know that. And one incident with an unscrupulous handyman would probably more than pay for permits and stuff like that. I've been burned on that before.
Let me ask you.
So I'm in support of you, I'm not fussing at you.
Let me go back on the word and ask you one thing. You know, this being the sovereign body, Hamilton, they can make the law, cut the law, change the law.
Yeah, this is just a model.
That's just a model. Okay. Do you deal with cities, counties, or municipalities that you might call it, that has a cutout where these people right here, myself included, I think the average handyman, if he could do $10,000, could it be cut out if this code is adopted? The first $10,000 on small repairs, could that not be put in effect? I know this governing body can do what they want to. I know they can.
Right.
Okay, that wouldn't be too much to ask. I mean, people have rental properties. They have a lot of small jobs they have to do. So I think this whole crowd would be pleased with a $10,000 startup. And these little startup crews, they give them something to do.
That's something to discuss.
I know that's a sovereign body right there. I mean, they can make a
But
decision.
yeah, it's a model and you can do anything you want.
You're
like
saying
that.
the first $10,000 on repair, maintenance, remodeling be exempt?
It'd be exempt. And I think the first code we did have had an exemption like that in it of some sort, the 1964 code. But like I say, this is a sovereign body, governing body of this town, and they can make any cutout, they make any decisions they want to, and make it law as long as the legislature okays it.
They could say, we adopt this code with the following amendment.
Yes.
Delete chapter 20.
Is that what it said?
I know, I'm sorry, I just made that up. But I mean, they can do whatever
I
they want
thought
to
you
do.
already wrote me a check.
No, but the code book actually has.
I want to disagree on that because, if you put an addition onto your house, and if you put an addition to a bathroom, then you want to make sure that that's a GFI circuit in that bathroom, and you don't want to put just a regular plug in there because the GFI protects you and it protects anybody that goes in that bathroom. So, if you don't get it inspected or whatever, if you do pass it, then if you don't get it inspected, they just put a regular plug in there under $10,000 and go on. Now,
Mr. Smith, mark your house. We won't work on that.
protects you if you fall in the bathtub.
Well, here's a section of the code that kind of addresses what you're talking about. It says repairs and maintenance. A permit shall not be required for minor repair work, including the replacement of lamps or the connection of approved portable electrical equipment to approved permanently installed receptacles. And then it gives a whole list of gas, mechanical, and all different things. And you could say, in that section right there, you could say for all permits, for all repairs, not exceeding or less than $10,000.
You willing to forego a GFI in a bathroom?
No, I'm not. I'm just answering his question.
This is saying that, just because it's under $10,000, I'm gonna put a regular plug in there. Now, if you forego that electrical plug and GFI.
You misunderstand. Not requiring a permit does not negate the responsibility to bill it to code. That is two totally different things. Even if you're exempt from a permit, you're never exempt from installing it according to the listing, the UL listing, or to the code. I mean, just because it says that you're not required to have a permit. Let's just say you're not required to have a permit to. I'm trying to think, to put a roofing on your house. You still have to install that roofing to code, even though you don't have to have a permit for it. And the same thing, if the electrical code requires you to put a GFI plug within so many feet of a moisture producing device, you still have to do that whether or not you get a permit or not.
Well, you talking about foregoing the permit, not the code.
Right, he's just talking about foregoing the permit,
Maybe,
not the
I
code.
misspoke there, then. I didn't know, I
Well,
thought.
there would have to be an inspection fee, I mean, an inspection, wouldn't there?
No, ma'am, you only inspect what you permit, but liability wise, you're always supposed to build to a certain standard, whether you're required to get a permit or not.
In the back, yes.
If the council adopts this code or this ordinance or whatever we do, and the inspector comes out, do we know how much it's gonna cost each time that inspector comes out? Like Larry said, it'd be 3 times. Has the council set that price, or do we have?
That building permit is taking care of all of it. I mean, you won't be charged every time he comes out.
I mean, we do know how much that's gonna, how much is that fee gonna be? Do we know?
We don't know yet. We're looking at other towns our size to see what they're charging. We're trying to be reasonable with it, you know, we haven't set those. We wanted to hear from you first.
Our organization annually publishes an evaluation sheet where we do research all over the United States on what different types of construction cost per square foot. And we publish this. And it'd be like a wood frame construction is so much per square foot. And then different communities can use this. Your permit fee will probably be based on a per square foot price. And it's up to you. We don't tell you what to do. But you'll have something to go by. They come in and say, I'm going to build something type 5 construction, which would be roof frame, and it's going to be 2,000 square feet. Then you'll look at how much you charge and say, okay, it's $1 a square foot or whatever, and that's how you charge. And it's based on the type. Like if it's all metal steel construction, it's another type. But we will furnish you with a thing where it's a national survey was done on how much it costs on the average to build certain type constructions. And that keeps all the cities kind of in the same ballpark of how they base their permits. But it's up to you on what you charge per square foot. And it's one permit fee, whether the inspector has to go out once or 40 times. You know,
Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Roger, you want to say anything?
Only thing I gotta say is, I built 2 new houses. And I had Larry, one of the best contractors in the build gallery. You know, everybody around here knows the local contractor. Both of those houses I bought, I'm getting $600-700 per set of plans. No plan told how much concrete and how to space the pillars and all that. It showed what to run 14-2 water to, what to run 6-3 water to. That's all in those plans. So many houses Larry Wilson built, he knows all about how to read a plan, and he knows how to run the wire to formula. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So we, the whole basic idea is, if you're gonna build a new house, have confidence in your contract. You know what I'm saying? Because all of that's there. I promise you, everything in that plan to build that house is up to code, ain't there?
It's there, but it's not been inspected. Who inspected your house? To make sure that that wire was
The
put
bank
in.
come out, the bank come out, just like she said, when it got a little far along.
How many licensed contractors are there in here from Alabama license? No, I'm not on the license.
Are you licensed?
Larry? Well, general, you've been a general for years, so.
You're licensed, right?
Yeah, I'm licensed. Anyway, most financial institutions now, with loan money for housing, aren't required you to have that license. They are doing that.
Larry, that's what we're paying y'all for. We're paying you to have that knowledge, to be able to read those plans and do your job right.
I know.
I mean, that's just like state.
I know, but how many people come do the same work I do that may not have that knowledge? I mean, I see this every day. I've remodeled houses, stored the houses been built, and I've seen wires spliced and walls just wrapped around one another, not even a wire nut on it. I mean, that's like putting a welder or something. I mean,
I've seen, I've done
yeah.
my life.
And I, you know, a single permit, say, permit costs $500 for a house, well, average house. Well, I wouldn't care to pay $500 extra, make sure that house is plumbed, wired, heating, cooling right, framed right, for my kids to sleep in. Some people don't want to pay that $500. Some people rather just say, well, my children's safe in here anyway. But that's the way they are.
I did my contract with Bill Galbraith on my lifetime, and I had confidence in him. So I guess I was on the mercy of Bill Galbraith.
Yeah. That's the way it's always, that's the way, just what said, that's the way we've always been.
Somebody brings me out of town.
Yeah. But,
You don't know
you know,
me.
we've seen a lot of people coming in from out of town now already. People hunt jobs. And a lot of people, and I'm not going off on the mobile home plant at all, I've worked in them before. You know, they can go to a mobile home plant, learn how to read a tape, do a four square. Hell, I'm a contractor.
They're built with code.
Hell, yeah, but I'm a contractor, but, yeah, but job mobile, man, the mobile home plants has got one specific job, he don't do it all.
There's all them mobile home plants now, is going strictly by code, wire, and everything.
Oh, yeah. A lot of your mobile homes today is probably built better than most houses are built now. I agree with that. So, you know, I'm for the code myself, because I want to play on the same ball field that everybody else plays on. I want to be able to bid on the same job Brock does, everybody in here does.
Does that code cover building, house sheds and stuff like that?
No, it does not cover
Just
farm buildings.
Yes, sir. Blue shirt?
The reason I posed that question of Hamilton being in a state of economic depression, I wanted you to think about it a little bit, because what Larry was saying, he was talking about the mobile home, people in the mobile home parks. Well, there's a lot of people that's, like Bozo said, a lot of people they're certified, they know what they're doing, but that's out of work right now. And if you shut down the small projects, and you inspect everything and have a permit on everything, licensed contractor on everything, you go in just like what Mr. Watson said, California, you're in a state of depression instead of economic recovery because you shut everything down. Because a lot of the people will quit building their small projects and put more people out of work, more people have to leave Hamilton.
Did you know that if you're breaking the law, if you contract something over $10,000, if you're not licensed, don't do it?
What you doing yourself? Breaking the law, you do it yourself?
No, you can do it yourself, but for yourself, but you cannot contract.
But you gotta have somebody come look at your work. If this
Yeah.
passes, you gotta have somebody.
Yeah, the inspector comes look at your work.
You know, if a man does his own work, he ain't gonna do something that's gonna get him killed. I mean, people, Hamilton's gotta
Does
put
he
their
know,
head on.
is he for sure what he's doing?
Yeah.
Is he for sure what he's doing? I'm not a mechanic, I couldn't put a motor together, but I could probably make it run, it may not run long.
My car is a 1955 Chevy, and I drove it here for a reason. How many houses that was built in 1955 are still here today? And there wasn't so certified as you are right now.
Well, what's the stats on the older houses? You know, you talk about the older houses, that burned.
Well, I mean, we know that most of our fire deaths are occurring in our older homes, in our lower income areas. And there's a lot of people say that, why should we have to build? Well, today's modern home is going to be one of the older homes 50 years from now. But yes, that's where most of our fire deaths are occurring right now, in our older homes.
Well, there's something you gotta look at there. Those houses that were built 55 to 60 was built with material and the wiring that was available, which was probably the best that you could buy at that time. And it's broke down.
And the code has changed.
The code has changed.
Used to use aluminum wire.
All I can see is we're adding money to people that don't need to be added. You can't afford it.
Tell me how it's adding money.
Well,
If I'm gonna build a house that's gonna cost $50,000, well, I'm not here to spend $200,
You
$300.
gotta get a permit. You're gonna have to pay for that. And you're gonna have to pay for inspection.
No,
You're
you're
just.
not paying for each
And you
inspection.
got
The
more
permit
roads,
pays for all
more
of it. The permit pays for everything.
If you build a 2,000 square foot house and the permit's $1 a square foot, that's $2,000.
It's gonna be costing.
I just made that amount up.
Yeah, he just made that up. That's not
I
gonna
don't know
cost.
what
It
they'll
might not
charge.
sound like much when you say per square foot, but when you add all them square feet together, that gets added up a little bit.
I think the first thing that you need to do before you get to support the community is tell them what you're gonna do.
Right.
That's why we're here.
That's the reason we're here.
But hopefully we started this was, we were here and then grants, and everybody we talked to about it said, this is gonna make it safer for your people, you know, the citizens of Hamilton, it'll make it safer in the building, blah, blah, blah. That's, you know, the whole reason why we started it, we're not here to tell y'all we're doing it, you know, we're just here to ask y'all what you think, you know, if it's not something we need to do, you know, it's not something we'll do, I mean, you know, we just wanna know what y'all think, and, you know, that's where we're coming from.
I think you
we're
need to be
learning
clear
with
on
y'all.
what your intentions is with the code and how much it's gonna cost and everything up front before you gonna get this support.
Yes, sir.
What's gonna be the qualifications to get the job as an inspector? Is it a contractor license, or, is one
At least
contractor gonna be able to tell another what they're doing right or wrong? Are you gonna have to have a master plumber license and stuff like that?
No, you don't have to have a master plumber's license. The inspector, if you put, when you get your plumbing in, he's gonna look at it. If there's a problem, he'll tell you correct.
So, he's asking the qualifications of the person that's gonna come out to do the inspection.
They're gonna have to be a licensed, experienced contractor.
That's all you have to do as a contractor?
And then
So
take,
one licensed contractor can tell another one what to do?
and then he'll have to take those courses that, the code folks offer, so he'll be sure he knows exactly what to do.
He accepts the job as the inspector, he will no longer be out competing.
You need something, you want to say something?
Hey, to get these grants you're talking about, is that just on commercial buildings, or is it gonna be for the housing too?
Yes, sir. Residential and commercial.
Residential and homes? We gotta have that before we get any kind of grants at all?
Oh, I see what you're talking about. The federal government, as I understand it, has put these qualifications on the towns to better able them to get grants and to meet their qualifications. I mean, every time they walk in the door, there's two questions to ask. Do you have a building code? And do you have a zoning ordinance? And we tell them we don't have any of that, they just kind of look at you.
I thought you said we had a building code.
Do what?
I thought you said we already had a building.
We do, but what we're trying, it was never enforced. That's the problem with it, it was never enforced. We had to go back in the minutes and find where this thing was passed in 1963. Now, why it was never enforced, I can't answer that. But we're gonna tweak this thing and bring it up to international code, and then we're gonna, if we pass it, that's what we'll enforce it. But right now, we're just trying to see what the people has to think about it.
I live in one of those houses when I was 64 years old, and if I had to get a permit or a contractor every time that I did something to that house, it's been under construction for 23 years. I can't afford to do that. I'm a one person that lives in that house. I have one income, and I'm sure these men are good at what they do, but in order to get a permit to put in floors and that where the termites have eaten up, I can't afford that.
You can do.
That's major construction, is it not, to put the joists in the floor?
No, that would cover
That's
that.
repair.
That's just repair.
Would it take a code to put up a privacy fence that I just put up?
No.
Would I have to have a permit for that?
No.
But your code would ensure this lady that it was done properly when it was done. Is that right?
You could request, if they don't take out a permit, you're most not likely not gonna automatically get an inspection. But I'm sure you could request the city to look and just, to see if your work was done to code. That's up to the city council.
So if I did anything...
So I don't think, for that doctor's council, we had, the only thing that dictated. But I don't think we'd put a
fence or anything like that, it has to be inspected.
So anything that I do inside that house to repair the roof, I don't have to do this?
You can remove your carpet.
No, I'm talking about floor joists and ceiling joists and ceilings, moving electricity, updating that. That's what I'm asking.
Just need to do it back to code, you can do it yourself.
But I gotta have somebody inspect it.
Don't have to.
See, like
I don't know what
Bobby,
the argument is, and if we don't capture.
see, like Bobby was talking about, for instance, on the building plans, those plans are actually through code. And one of the questions is, did the builder build it up to code? Well, you don't really know. And like Martha says, some of the jobs, up to so much money, don't really need to be, permitted. A lot of, like, changing out a hot water heater, that's, basic stuff. There should be a limit set on what you need. If you have a building code, and if you have building plans for a particular house to be built, you want to make sure that it is built up to code, even though, you think your contractor's gonna know what he's doing, and he should very well build everything up to code, but you'd be surprised, a lot of times it's not.
Larry, I got a question on that. Larry, you built something, then the factory come out and you had to change.
Yeah.
That's the reason, you're not gonna swallow that code, you can't.
We wouldn't have to change.
Something,
I got, put the wrong header in.
yeah, header, do something you think
I
like
have
it,
to correct it. The builder does.
on the site.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's not built up to code. It's not built up to code.
Okay. Let me have your attention. We're gonna have to go into council meeting, and I appreciate every one of you coming and, your comments and suggestions. We really appreciate that. Thank you for taking the time. Aaron has one other comment.
One thing I want everybody to think about, this affects the fire service in a big way for life safety, not just for the people that live in that residence, but for our firefighters. Most of our firefighters, as you know, are volunteers. And we pay a dime. They do it because we want to help the community. We put these firefighters in their houses on fire. They're not built to code. They collapse, they fall in, it kills people. It kills our firefighters, our citizens that are trying to help you save your property. So, don't you think they deserve to have some peace of mind knowing that houses are built to code, protect their life when they're trying to protect your property? Think about it.
I have one more question while they're going into their transition. What about the fire code?
Sir, let me give you one more question.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I agree with what you said about the having fire. I agree with the code thing, you build a new house. But if I want to build an outhouse in my place, I don't need my neighbor telling me that I can't. What I'm saying is, we don't need more restrictions. People working week to week. I mean, we don't need more restrictions on us. A lot of people's got their brothers or their nephews or cousins or aunts. They got different people working in their houses. And if they want their house inspected, they can hire somebody to inspect the house before they buy it. We don't need some code to tell us to do it. That's what I agree. I mean, we don't need it. I agree. We don't need people. I agree with the fire department. It is dangerous going to burning houses. I'm not saying it ain't. But I'm saying if the people could afford to have an inspection every time they need something fixed or they want a building built, it's different. People here ain't got the money to do it.
Put money in front of your life.
Well, people just ain't got the money to do it. I built a new house, and I had a contractor, and I'm with every step of my house. I know what it's like. And I could have had an inspector to come look at my house if I chose to. But I don't need some government telling me what to do and not to do. I mean, that's just more restrictions on you. And we've got enough in this country. We don't need another code, somebody telling us what we can build and we can't build. And that's the way I feel about it. I mean, I built my own house.
Make sure the code's followed to what we got already. I'm getting ready to complete 4,200 square feet. That's gonna cost me a little bit less than $40,000 completed. Then I've had two contractors tell me it cost me $120,000 if they build it. And another thing, the guy that's gonna put the heat in the area, if they pass this tomorrow, he'd have to have a licensed refrigeration man to put it in, and he'd have to have a licensed electrician to hook it up.
I got one more
Now, where we
thing.
gonna get that extra money?
About the fire, about the issue about the fire, been to my place, I've had 22 years. I wanted a fire hydrant around that Rocky Grove area, all them people out there, we keep annexing in, and can't take care of what we got. And I've been wanting a fire hydrant out there, all these people around Rocky Grove, and we still haven't got one. That would help with the fire issue. That would, my insurance would be lower, be cut in half. That's the stuff we need to be looking at, instead of putting more restrictions on people.
And all of my building is built by code. Built for the code,
I don't know the actual insurance cost. I do know that, there's, several of the major insurance companies, threaten to totally not write any new insurance on the Gulf Coast, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, until they adopted codes. And so therefore, like out in Mobile County, Baldwin County, Hancock County, Mississippi, they all have mandatory codes now, and they had to do it, or the insurance company said they're pulling out, they were not writing enough insurance.
Again, I appreciate all of you coming and your comment. We've made notes. We'll look at those and take those into consideration. This special meeting is adjourned.
I'll come in.
Yeah.